So UFC Noche is this weekend, and I'm sure everyone's excited. Well, mainly for the main event, if we're being honest. This card is actually kind of a bit of a disappointment, to be honest. Historically, Noche has been at least one of the most anticipated cards of the year. This time, the lineup isn't really looking that well. The main card and the main event overall seems to be pretty decent, but it is what it is. But let's make the most of it. Let's look forward to it. You do have Gene Silva and Diego Lopes in that main event. And as I was saying previously, Gene Silva is my favorite fighting nerd, and I think that he also is the best overall, which I'll definitely get to in our preemptive picks and reactions and breakdown to the fights. So let's get into it. So we have a lot of people who's kind of making that vie to create a name for themselves on this card as well. Starting off with Rodrigo versus Daniil Dochenko. um, to be honest with this one, I don't really got too much breakdown with it. I'm going with Daniil Dochenko for this one. Overall, I just think he's a little bit more well-rounded. I don't think it's anything such as a huge difference in class or anything. I just think he's a little bit more well-rounded, and that he'll be the one who gets the better of this. Probably going to end in a decision on this one. Wouldn't be surprised though, because there is a bit of power on both sides, so I wouldn't be surprised on both sides, especially Rodrigo's. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a sudden finish. But based off my personal opinion, based on the level these I see these two at currently in comparison to the rest of their division, I just see it as a ending as a 29-28 decision on the favor of Daniil Lutsenko. We ain't going to spend too much time on the ones that don't really need to be spent too much time on for this breakdown. Next one, we have women's bantamweight bout. We got Alice Pereira versus Montserrat Rendon. Not sure who is or isn't aware of, but this is not former two division champion Alex Pereira's younger sister. This is not her. This is somebody else who just shares the same last name. Um, this is Montserrat Rendon versus Alice Pereira. I know that right now, Alice Pereira hasn't really suffered a defeat as yet. However, Montserrat Rendon has faced a higher level of competition. I know that she only has one loss, but overall higher level of competition, more experienced, more proven, so to speak. And Alice Rendon is also only 19. I'm not about to pick her over a bit more seasoned veteran in an early performance. I'm not. I haven't seen or heard enough about her to take that level of leap of faith. So with this one, I expect it to be a little bit of a. Excuse me. I expect it to be a little bit of a kind of just a bit of a just dominance. To be honest, I just expect it to be Rendon winning 29-28 as well, but I expect it to be kind of a bit of a. You need a little bit more experience type of performance. Moving on, we have Alessandro Costa versus Alden Correa. This this matchup, I got Alessandro Costa. I think Costa's been looking pretty decent overall so far. Think that he has. I think he's done a lot of great stuff, showing some improvement here and there. Nothing too crazy, but I think that he's got a pretty good dominance. I think he has good power. I actually expect this one to be a knockout. I see this as a second round knockout TKO on the part of Alexandro Costa. I think that is just a big enough gap that, especially for a debutant in Alden Correa, your first fight might be a little bit too tall of an order. I know I'm picking against a lot of the debutants with this one, but it's a bit difficult for me to say that you're debuting against people prepared for. Even though I said it's underwhelming in comparison to the past, but you're still going against people who are prepared for a Noche card. It's a bit hard to find debutants that I'm actually gonna pick over the veterans in this one. But this one, I see this being the first finish as far as Alexandro Costa, second round TKO over Alden Correa. Moving on, we have Zachary Reese versus Cedric Dumas. Now, I'm gonna be blunt. Dumas is trash. Trash. Like, he's cool. His fights are decent to see. He attempts to put on a good performance, but he loses like a lot. Don't get me wrong. He's still an interesting fighter to see perform, but he loses a lot. Eh, I can't, in good faith, pick Dumas over almost anybody. Zachary Reese probably going to go in, beat him up, submit him, see him. I see Zachary Reese having a second round finish. Like, see it ending as a submission, most likely. But if it ended as a knockout, I wouldn't be surprised either. But I see Zachary Reese kind of shutting Dumas out more. Honestly, I see this. This is the first one. I'm like, this is probably going to be a complete shutout. To be honest, I don't really think Dumas has much of a chance or anything. Yeah, Dumas is a decent striker, but low fight IQ, poor distance management, overall just not much improvement in all the time he's been with UFC. It's difficult for me to be like, yeah, he wins this one against Zachary Reese. Yeah, like, I just, even when you look, Reese is coming off a win, Dumas is coming off a loss. And while Dumas has the 10-3 record, but when you actually look at against UFC caliber competition and how he looks, it's not really impressive. Like, the quality of the wins and how they've been looking are not the same. Moving on, we have Jesus Aguilar versus Luis Gurul. Um, this fight is going to be, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting fight. Two fighters coming off losses, both have something to prove. Both going to probably come with that aggression. They both probably are trying to game plan pretty hard for each other. Both probably really trying to make this be a statement making performance. I'm leaning towards Luis Gurul, not by much. I just think that he's going to be the one more prepared for the fight. I think he's a bit better, well rounded, a bit stylistically. I think he just has a bit more of an advantage. Think that he'll have better spacing control. They have similar heights as well, but while they have similar heights, and he is only an inch taller, but he has 1.5, almost 2 inch reach advantage, and then even same thing with the leg reach, a higher reach advantage. Think that he's just a little bit better. I think he's literally just a little bit better than everywhere, and sometimes being a little bit better in multiple aspects end up becoming a huge difference when it actually comes to the clash. Um, so I see this one ending as a 29-28 decision. I see it ending in decision. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended as a 30-27 decision, to be honest. As I said, I just think he's just a little bit better everywhere, but I think that those little bits could add up to be a lot of it. Always a possibility that an opening might arise and a finish happens, but I don't see that being the case in this matchup. I just see it being a case of Luis Gurul basically closing that out in this situation and just having that a dominant decision. Moving on, Tatiana Suarez versus Amanda Lemos. I'm actually a big fan of Tatiana Suarez. Um, Even though she just had that dominant loss to Zhang Weili, the former champion. Personally, I was one of the people who thought she would have won. I know people going to pretend like they always expected that, and nobody thought Tatiana Suarez. I get how it goes with the community, but I thought that Suarez would have actually had a pretty decent time with Weili, but that dominant performance by Weili against her really showed levels. But even before that, we're not going to pretend that Tatiana Suarez wasn't literally running through the entire division with just her overwhelmingly dominant wrestling and submission ability. Part of that is because of her size and physical capabilities. However, I I just don't think that unless there's that huge of a difference, like in skill, like there was with a Zhang Weili, that's going to be she's going to just get picked apart, especially with the way how she lost, I think it would be unrealistic to expect that she isn't out here really putting in work and trying to improve her game afterwards. For me, I know that Lemos is a fantastic striker, at least by the strawweight division standards. I believe that Lemos is a fantastic striker. I think Lemos is also another high level fighter within that division. I don't think Lemos is going to be able to do much with Suarez. I think Suarez's wrestling is going to be too dominant. I think she's going to be too relentless. I think she's going to smother her. I don't think Lemos has the counters that Whaley had, and I don't think that she has the wrestling defense or the grappling defense, takedown defense, all of the different aspects that contribute to make overall great grappling defense. I don't think she has the takedown defense Whaley had. I don't think she has while I know she's a great grappler within her own right, and she's really good jujitsu practitioner. But I just think that Suarez is a better submission artist against her. On the other hand, Suarez is nowhere near the striker that Lemos is. That they're not even in the same dimension. But I just think that the gap between the wrestling and that stylistic matchup is so dominant with Suarez that she's basically going to just be too much for Lemos. I see this being a third round finish. I think this will end in a third round submission in favor of Tatiana Suarez. I also think that Tatiana Suarez has a lot to prove, not just to the fans and the organization, but to herself as well, to prove that she still is a capable championship potential or championship quality fighter. So I think in this specific matchup, this is going to be one of the ones to kind of look at. Honestly, I think this one should have been one of the ones that should be on the main card, especially on this card specifically. I think that this should have been on the main card rather than the prelims, especially with some of the stuff that's been on there instead, but it happens. Um, we got Claudio Puelles versus Joaquim Silva. Both another instance of two fighters coming off a loss. In this one, I am going in favor of Joaquim Silva, though. I understand that he's the older fighter. I understand that he's the one who's past his prime. If I'm recalling correctly, Silva is 40 or close to it. I could be wrong, but I believe that is his age. Whereas Club Puelos is in his 20s, but either 20s or early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. Either way, Silva's a lot more wear and tear past his prime, kind of approaching that retirement age. Also, the shorter fighter in this aspect as well, with the smaller reach. Like I know on paper it seems as if there's a lot of disadvantage, but I think Silva is the more dangerous striker in the aspect of better knockouts, bit more relentless with the swings, more willing to engage. I see this one ending as I don't think that he's the necessarily the better technician of the two, but I do think that Silva overall is just good enough to chip away at him. I think Silva is good enough to chip away at him, keep him backpedaling, keep him high focus, high on guard, and then to have that moment where you're so focused that you're unfocused. Kind of creating that tunnel vision that you're so focused on the power that you end up opening a gap that he then exploits that gap to lead up to a big power shot. See this being a second round TKO. Honestly, I see Silva kind of getting him out of there once he makes a big enough mistake. Um, now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if Puelas ended this with a decision victory of kind of outpointing him, so to speak. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Silva is going to catch him. I think Silva is going to catch him, and I think so. I think the first round is going to be kind of an establishing of range, downloading the information, preparing everything, and then for the first round. I mean, the first round being establishing of range, getting downloading information, securing positions, like getting an idea, like a big feeling out process. Then I think the second round, Silva is going to go in for the kill, especially if he recognizes that he isn't technical enough to like really close the gap. He'll go in for the kill, like flush him out, like get him out of there. This one, another one, Jose Daniel Medina versus Dusko Todorit. Once again, it's like once again, no chase usually has overall so much higher level fighters on it. Like it's a bit once again, it's a bit disappointing. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but there's so many fighters that are like, coming off losses themselves and aren't the most established and aren't even like a lot of these a couple of these fighters aren't even people that are in contention to be in the top 15, and so many debutants is like once again it's a bit disappointing. And then there aren't, with the exception of the main card, there aren't really that many stars or people with potential. It's one of the reasons why it feels so disrespectful that Suarez versus Lemos is on the prelims, especially when you look at some of the other fights it's amongst. But to get back into it, Jose Daniel Medina versus Dusko Torovic, two fighters that both of them kind of, how do I say, they just try without a specific intention. That makes sense. Like they go in there and they fight. Like they aren't fighting, they aren't being technicians, they aren't pushing determination. Like it kind of feels like two guys that are here for a paycheck. As I know that may sound a bit disrespectful, but neither of these guys necessarily are known for their game plan, strategies, techniques, or even improvements. Once again, Noche is a big opportunity to actually establish that precedent, change the views on that. This one, I'm gonna just go with Daniel Medina. I think Medina is just. I just think that he's a bit more determined in this one. I think that once again, I think he just matches up slightly better against Todorovic. I see this one ending as a 29-28 decision. I just see that. I just think that is going to be a big back and forth. Not expecting fireworks, but once again, you can always be surprised. You'll learn that with UFC and MMA in general. But I just expect this to be kind of a bit of a brawl between the two. Neither of them being like incredibly better than the other, in my opinion. But I just see Medina being the one to kind of just have a little bit more in the gas tank and kind of make it to that decision and have it be a 29. I probably win one round, then kind of gets pushed around the second one, and then comes back with a little bit better game plan in the end, or just a bit better strategy in the end. 29-28 decision for Daniel Medina. Moving on, and this is another good one. We have Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira. Ferreira, um, yeah, I think a lot of people are picking against Ferreira for good reason, I suppose. He is coming off the loss. He is also their fighter, a bit more wear and tear. But my opinion, Ferreira is just better. I think Ferreira is better. I think Ferreira is more well rounded. I think Ferreira is better. Ferreira is the better grappler as far as technically speaking, as far as timing and opportunity. I think Ferreira's just been around a lot more. Ferreira is a lot more prepared and ready for these type of moments. I just think Ferreira's been around the block a bit better. That's it. I just think Hernandez is just, while Hernandez is riding great momentum, I just think that Ferreira is a little bit better above his class, or not even necessarily above his class. I think that he just a little bit more seasoned to the point that he can make this or can give the appearance of a higher class. I don't know if Hernandez has done the work to elevate himself to that point. Legitimately don't know. So I don't want to just blatantly count him out in that one. But I do think Diego Ferreira is a little bit too much for him at this point in time. Despite the age, despite the loss, despite the wear and tear, I just think Diego Ferreira is just a little bit too much, a little bit too much for him to handle right now. A bit more on his plate than he's prepared for. See this one ending as another one where I see it ending in decision, and I could see it being either 29-28, or I could see it being a complete shutout and just see it being a 30-27. So I can see both of those being a reality. As I said, I just think that Ferreira overall is just a little bit too much for Hernandez to handle, which is why I won't say a finish for him, because I still think that there are pathways for Hernandez to win. Fernandez did the work. He might be able to get him with the hands, might be able to pressure him, might be able to cut off the cage a little bit better. like really like exhaust him as well, with him being at that time where his body's beyond that point, he could legit just overload him. Like there are a lot of possibilities and pathways to victory for Hernandez. I generally just don't know if he's committed to that and what the strategy they've devised for in the camp. And sometimes when you put your expectations on fighters, they might not meet them and they might go a completely different route that is more or less effective. So I'll kind of wait and see further to see what 29, but 29-28 or 30-27 decision in favor of Diego Ferrer is my prediction. On to the main card. Quang, Quang Lei versus Santiago Luna. I'm going with Quang Lei. But once again, another debutant versus a veteran. I just don't know if they're ready for this level of powers yet, or this level of experiences yet, this level of fighter. I want to see Santiago Luna. I've seen it a little bit. I'm sure Luna is pretty decent. Luna's good overall, which is why he made it to the UFC in the first place. But Quang Lee's been around the block. He's kind of done a little bit, followed a little bit of every style. I just don't think that I'm going to pick this type. I don't think I'm going to pick a debutant of this current renowned reputation and showcase over Quang Lei. I just don't think that he's done enough outside that would impress me to the point that makes me go, oh shit, Quang Lei's about to get smoked. Or Quang Lei isn't going to be able to keep up with that, or Quang Lei won't be able to figure that out with all his experience. That's a bit difficult for me to personally believe. So we'll see how this go. Well, once again, I see Quang Lee edging this one out with a 29-28 decision. Now, this is one fight that I'm looking forward to as well. Kelvin Gastelum versus Dustin. That's quite the name. Dustin Stolzvos. So, Kelvin versus Dustin, basically. Kelvin Gastelum, to be blunt, is lazy as fuck. Like, that's really. Kelvin Gastelum, as far as attributes, is incredible. Like, he's really fast, he's really technical, he has really great fight IQ, and he has excellent aggression, and he's also a little dirty, which works when it comes to fights because, let's be real, the refs don't be doing their jobs. So, like, Kelvin Gastelum has a lot of traits that would make him a great fighter, but he's fucking lazy and he's always eating. Look at this fucking body. What is this? Like, that is crazy for a seasoned veteran UFC fighter that once competed for a championship. He looked like me. Oh, so it's like that shit is crazy. But when you look at Gaslam in the situation, yeah, Gaslam shorter. Yeah, if Gaslam actually paid attention to his diet properly, and if Gaslam actually did the shit that he's expected to do as a professional, and he made weight and he dieted properly and he worked out properly, Gaslam would probably fight 2 divisions lower. Gaslam could probably compete at lightweight right now if he was on proper nutrition diet. Instead, he's competing at middleweight, a division that he once fought and legitimately had a great opportunity to win a title. And Gaslam is really fast. Gaslam is experienced to be fighting bigger, taller guys. Like you just saw it with the Rodriguez. Gaslam is one of those ones that he never looks tired even when he should be on paper. What I mean by that is even when he misses weight and he's fat as fuck and he's out here looking like a milkman and he's out here doing all type of shit and he's not training properly, he always has great energy. He can go 5 rounds damn near anytime it feels like. He's always fast. He rarely slows down. He's always strong. He always pushes the tempo. Now, this is one of those where I legit just think it's a difference in class. Honestly, once again, Gaslam is fucking lazy. I would not be surprised if Gaslam just faded out because he's that lazy that he squanders his potential all the time. He's one of those fighters that sabotages himself just because he's too lazy to take it seriously enough to actually maximize his potential. So if he lost because of that, that wouldn't surprise me. But if Gaslam fights at even three quarters of what his potential is in this fight and what we know him for historically, this is a finish. Easy. This is a second round TKO. So that's what I'm going with. I see this being Kelvin Gaslam. Yeah, Dustin Stolfos is pretty decent. He's pretty good. He's pretty strong. I see Gaslam just kind of. And yeah, they're both coming off losses, but once again, Gaslam is gas with Stolfos. I have to argue that he's good, but he'd win because this with Gaslam, I gotta argue that he's good, but he sabotages himself. Whereas with Stolfos, I gotta be like, yeah, he's good, but he has to do this, this, and that to win. Whereas with Gaslam, I gotta be like, he's good, but he has to do this, this, and this to not win. You see the difference? With Dustin Stolfos, my in my factor in him winning is literally for Gaslam to do worse. Bro, I don't know what's going on to me. I don't know if I got hiccups or like what, but Jesus. But yeah, but with Dustin Stolfos, I have to literally argue and believe that Gaslam is gonna fuck up somehow in order for him to have a better chance at winning. Whereas with Gaslam, I'm like, bro, you gotta just be a little bit less you, just a little bit less you, and you got it in the bag. So personally, I see this being a second or third round TKO. Like I see Gaslam basically getting him on the feet. That we just saw Gaslam lost against Joe Pyfer, and Gaslam had those moments where he could have beaten Joe Pyfer, and you saw that Gaslam's power held up against Joe Pyfer, somebody who is known for just having big winging shots and the wide power. Like he's known for the big winging shots and the power. And Gaslam weathered that, countered it, and made it to the end. So I see Gaslam winning this one. I see Gaslam winning this one handedly. See Gaslam finishing him once again, second or third round TKO in favor of Kelvin Gaslam. We have a Rafa Garcia versus Jared Gordon. This one, I'm giving it to Jared Gordon. Better technician, more experience, higher level competition, wider variety, overall better fighter. Easy, another easy pick in my personal opinion. Jared Gordon has great boxing. Jared Gordon has great energy. Jared Gordon has great vision and great fight IQ. I just see Jared Gordon just picking him apart from the outside, more or less. At his current age, I don't know if Jared Gordon is willing to take the risk he once was, and like being willing to risk going for the finish if he's had a difficult fight, especially with how sometimes his wins are ups and downs. I don't know if he's willing to risk a loss at this stage in order to get a finish. So because of that, I'm going to say 29-28 decision, possibly 30-27 decision. I'm going to say that. But if he wanted to finish and he really pushed it and he's willing to risk danger, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a finish as well. So 29-28, 30-27 decision in favor of Jared Gordon. Moving on, we got Rob Font. Rob Font, who is kind of similar to Jared Gordon, as far as the clean, sharp boxing and experience. Difference is Rob Font is always aggressive and is always going for the finish. So you would think that I'd say the same thing that Rob Font is going to get that finish, but no, that David Martinez is also a bit more aggressive. Um, Good potential as a contender. A lot more willing to bring that fight to the table. Like he's a lot more willing to like really up the tempo as well. A lot more willing to engage, especially he also from Mexico. This is Noche, so it's the Mexican card. So I can also see David Martinez wanting to put on a show as well. This one, I kind of see it being a pretty clash of aggression. I think Rob Font is the more technical, sharper, better striker overall. And I think that he also has good takedown defense and overall grappling resistance. So I think Rob Font wins this one as well. This one, I'm also saying as a 29-28 decision. I don't see that it's going to be a 30-27. But as I said, Martinez is going to bring that aggression. He's going to try to put on the show. He's going to try to secure that victory in his home country. I just don't see him beating Font because I think Font is better. Yeah, this one, as opposed to with Jared Gordon, where I think that I might think that he might play it a little safe. With Rob Font, I just think that Rob Font won't be able to have that level of domination against Martinez, but I do think Rob Font is going to win. And I think Rob Font's going to be in his face all night unless Martinez gets him out. And I think Martinez is going to try to get him out. But I just think that Rob Font is going to still be there. So I see this one being 29-28. Even potentially a split decision, to be honest. Wouldn't be surprised if this ended in a split decision. And that was it. And that was the co-main event. But getting into the main event, which is the highlight of the card that everyone's here for, we have Diego Lopes versus my personal favorite fighting nerd, Gene Silva. Also, the one I think is the craziest one of them all. Um, this is a great matchup because there's so many factors to be considered. I was I was planning on doing a who wins for this one as well, but I also want to do one for the Canelo versus Crawford, so I didn't really have the time to do them both. So I might still put it out to give a lot more nuance and detailed explanation of the matchup between these two. But with Diego Lopes, Diego Lopes is not technical with his striking. His grappling is a lot more technical, ironically. But his striking is a lot wilder, a lot more vicious, so to speak, as well. Brutal knockouts, heavy shots, a pretty big headhunter as well. Like Diego Lopes goes to kill you. He doesn't go for the knockout. He fights to kill you when it comes to the hands. His submissions are a lot more technical, a lot more by the book, like better setups, good back takes. He'll ride you if he has to, as we saw in the Dan Ige fight, and he'll push that aggression as much as his cardio will allow. Gene Silva, on the other hand, and from the very beginning, I've always thought Gene Silva was the one who had the best potential at becoming a champion of the fighting nerds, at least of the four main fighting nerds, because when you look at Gene Silva, starting with his division, because that's always where you got. I feel like people overlook the division. Stylistically, Gene Silva matches up very well within the featherweight division right now. In comparison to other nerds that stylistically there was somebody who countered them fully in their division, or just a big tall task for the sitting champion, Gene Silva doesn't have that issue, especially with Ilya Topuria leaving the division. Right now, Gene Silva is, in my personal opinion, one of the three best fighters within his division right now, with the other two being Lerone Murphy and Masvar Evloev, in my opinion. I think Gene Silva is a lot more, unlike Diego Lopes, he's a lot more technical. He's by the book, he's creative. He has a lot of the attributes that made the other fighting nerds great. He has he has grappling skills and defense that I would argue are even better than Caio's. And he's even more well-rounded than Caio. He has the precision striking of Mauricio. He has the precision striking that Mauricio Hofi has, but not just does he have the precision striking, he but not just does he have the precision striking, he has great timing and shot selection, and he's a lot more adaptable than what we saw in the Huffy versus Benoit Saint Denis fight last weekend. Like, for example, when he fought Drew Dober and he ended up breaking both hands, Gene Silva effortlessly and fluidly transferred into using his elbows to supplicate that and end up still getting a finish with just elbows instead of his hands. And he has that creativity in his mind without slowing down or showing any necessary, because nobody even knew his hands were broken until after the fight. Same thing. And then even when you look at Prates, he has the aggression to march down people just like Prates, and that good distance management, and he has all those knees. Gene Silva has the power. He has the best body control of all the fighting nerds. He's very fluid. He has excellent vision. His vision very dynamic. His submission ability is dynamic. He's very much a finisher. In this matchup, it's great because I think that Diego Lopes's grappling ability is good enough to at least negate some of Gene Silva's attempts. I don't know if it's good enough to stop them. I think it's good enough to slow them down, but to full on stop them, I don't know. Then, when it comes to the striking, we've seen Gene Silva be able to fight forward and backward, and we've seen him fight excellently moving back, which was one of the things where I myself said that in the Caio Barajo versus Imavov matchup, Caio's ability to fight moving backwards is one of the reasons why Imavov struggled to finish him, whereas other fighters would open up a lot more. Gene Silva is even better than that. Gene Silva is just as dangerous going back as he's going forward. I actually think that his biggest issue is that he plays around too much and he's too into character. I also think he's legitimately crazy. I'm not saying that to be funny. I think he's actually got a screw loose, and especially with how he behaves. Always crying, like literally always crying. Um, Barks like physically barks a lot. But when he comes and he's fighting, his distance management, his precision striking, his timing, his speed, his counters, like all of it overall is just so high level. With when you put him against Diego Lopes, they both have knockout power, but Lopez's power is better is greater than Silva's. It just is. Lopes is able to march forward a lot more. Lopes is also got a great chin. Lopes is able to really take a lot of damage. If this was a 3-round fight, I would say Gene Silva by decision because Silva is just able to do a lot of stuff, but Lopes is able to take a lot of stuff while still being constantly dangerous. However, as a 5-round fight, with this matchup, I see it being fireworks the first 2 rounds because I don't see either of them getting a finish. I think Lopes, despite how dangerous he is, I think Silva's distance management, speed, and accuracy is too great to allow him to just be able to walk him down. And unlike in the Volkanovski fight that Lopes just lost in for that championship attempt, I think that Silva isn't going to just fully engage with him in the pocket like Volk did. Silva is going to maintain that distance, snipe him from a certain range, avoid the danger, be fast enough, threaten him with the submission attempts whenever he tries to engage in the grappling to kind of have him stifled. He's going to be a back and forth striking affair, slowly inching more and more towards Silva until it gets to that 3rd round. And then with Silva having more time to like work, I think that he'll build that momentum that will make Lopes get more aggressive. And by getting more aggressive, I think Lopes will open himself up more in that attempt. I think this is Gene Silva by whatever he wants. Truly, like legitimately, I think Gene Silva by anything he wants. If he wants a submission, I think he'll get it. I think if he wants a finish, a knockout, I think he'll get it. If he wants to go by decision, I think he'll get it. I think he just is better everywhere. And I think it's been shown by his fight. He has the great, I think he has one of the best fighting IQs in the division completely. Like, not just the fighting nerds, the whole division. I'd even argue in the UFC by this point because Silva's one of the few fighters I see whenever he's in dominant position. Not only does he use elbows extremely well, he elbows the side brutally. You see him in top position. Silva, they'll be throwing elbows, they'll be throwing everything. Silva isn't just going to allow you to cover up. Somebody's covering up, somebody's grabbing hands, somebody is trying to like stifle him. Silva isn't going to just allow them to like tie up time there. He'll start throwing elbows to the side, fully elbowing the rib cage, like causing massive shock. He'll try to get you up. He'll try to style on you. He'll do everything. Like, Silva is a true finisher in a lot of aspects, and overall, I just think that he's an excellent fighter. I think that he's just too much in too many areas to choose Diego Lopes in this one. So my pick for this is I'm gonna say Silva. I'm gonna say Silva by 3rd round, 3rd round TKO, by 3rd round knockout TKO, but truly Silva by anything he wants. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. That's my predictions for UFC Noche, Silva versus Lopes. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Leave y'all comments, opinions down in the comment section. Like, subscribe. Till next time, hasta luego.